Nobody would have thought that I would be the one. Rhyner, sports talk. Baseball, 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 baseball.
Oh, with the big mic. Oh, okay. All right, yeah. Okay, now I get it.
We got a lightning strike, boys. What happened over there, Grego? We had a little lightning strike right outside the window.
All right. Here's a tip for all these Americano League teams.
Wait, you said tip?
Yeah, tip.
Okay.
With a P.
Keep jamming.
The ticket, colon, nothing but a big Gen X jerk-off sale.
Is this a cool night or what?
Although somebody would hear that and go, bullshit.
I'm back, bitches.
Well. What have we here? Why? Looks like another edition of Your Dark Companion. Yes, indeed, kids. How are you today? I hope you're doing very, very well. We have a cold day here in the D today on this, the 15th. Thank you. 15th of December today. And this would be episode which? 179. Leaning hard on 180 today. And we're going to get a little music vibe happening here today. Going to get a little music-ish. Because we have in here with us a guy that has been involved in the music scene in many, many different ways over the years. He's kind of hard to describe because he's done a lot of things. And like I say, he's been involved in the music business from a lot of different angles. Now, I probably first became familiar with him from his days at Buddy Magazine. But there's much more to this man than just that. He is Kirby Warnock. Hello, Kirby.
Well, Mike, thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for doing this. Looking forward to talking to you today because you are a guy who, like I said, has been involved in a lot of stuff in a lot of different ways.
Well, I've been pretty lucky.
Yeah. Well, you've been pretty good too. Okay. All right. Now, is that better?
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay. Yeah, we are doing great here. We know what we're doing. We always do this. How are you, man?
I'm doing well. I'm just, like I said when I came in, I'm just glad to be seen. I'm glad to be here because a lot of our old friends are not.
Yes, this is very true. Mm-hmm. And I do keep that top of mind at all times myself. What are you doing with yourself these days? Anything in particular?
Well, right now I'm living out near Fort Stockton, Texas, on a place my family's had for about 105 years. And I'm currently running for Pecos County Judge. I've filed to be on the ballot, and I'm going to be on the ballot for the primary in March. And if I'm elected, I will truly be the law west of the Pecos.
Mm-hmm. See, I told you, this man's done a lot of different things over the years. And those things just continue to keep on stacking up. Now, you've produced or written how many films?
Four documentaries.
4 documentaries, all pertaining to the music scene here in Texas. Is that right?
All except the one of them was the first one I did was Return to Giant. It was about the location filming of the movie Giant out of Marfa, Texas, back in 1955. And so I wanted to try to give people an idea of what it was like when James Dean and Rock Hudson and Elizabeth Taylor came to town. I did that one. Then I did another one called Border Bandits. It's a documentary about a story my grandfather told me where he witnessed some murders committed by Texas Rangers, and he buried the bodies and told me where they were buried. And then I got into music documentaries when I did When Dallas Rocked, just an examination of the music scene when you and I were active in it.
Right.
And then the latest one I've done is Jimmy and Stevie Ray Vaughan, Brothers in Blues, the 2 incredible guitarists that came out of Dallas and took over the world.
Out of all of that, do you have a favorite?
I think this Vaughan Brothers one is my favorite because I was there like you were too. You grew up in the Cliff, the Vaughn brothers. I was there to witness it. And I know that everybody out there, when I was growing up in Jones County, Mississippi, there was always one or two people in your school that were just incredibly talented. And you said, oh, they're going to make it. They're going to hit it big.
Yeah.
None of them did except the Vaughn brothers. They were the only two that I saw. And I said, they're going to hit it big. And they actually did, but all the others that I saw and thought for sure, well, they're going to go somewhere. Only the Vaughn brothers did it, and they not only did it big, they had the leading rock musicians of the 60s and 70s, dying to play with them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy how it all worked out, but, watching them from a distance, you could tell that those guys were driven.
Yes.
I mean, I was around playing music in Oak Cliff back then myself, but there was something different about them. They had something that none of the rest of us had.
That's true.
Now looking at it in the rearview mirror and having gone through what I've gone through and having seen what they've gone through and everything like that, I see very clearly what it was. It was the fact that those guys were driven.
They were driven, but they also, they were just given an incredible raw talent. I mean, whatever you want to call it, blessed, fortune, they were just gifted where, it's like I said, I played guitar too, but when they picked up the guitar, I was realizing they were playing an instrument I was no longer familiar with.
Yes.
It was like the guitar became an extension of their body, and I felt like I'd seen Elvis the first time I saw them play. I was that bowled over,
Yeah. I mean, when you watched them play, even back then, you could tell that something was going on that was way, way different from the rest of the boys.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kirby, how old was he when you would have seen him, maybe for the first time?
The first time I was not blessed like Rhyner here to see them when they were in high school or before they dropped out. They were in their 20s when I saw them, and they had both already moved to Austin.
Yeah.
When I saw them. But Mike here saw them. He was president of the Creation.
And kicked him out of a band. Not really, but...
Yeah. Stevie auditioned for a band that I was trying to start up, and he didn't know any of the songs, so we couldn't use him, He was doing his own thing even back then,
Yep.
It was crazy, though, because the first time I saw Jimmy, he was playing in a band called the Pendulums.
Yes.
And the Pendulums were really, really good, but they were just playing, the hits of the day. And then Jimmy got in a band called Texas. And Texas did blues. Mm-hmm. And that, I think it's safe to say, and I'm maybe talking out of turn here. There may be guys out there that are going to hear me say this and just go, no, that's not how it was. But I think that's what set Jimmy along the blues trail. And the thing about both of them was, like I say, once they got into something, they were all in. There was no turning back. There was no plan B. That was what they were going to do. And once Jimmy started playing blues, that was what he was going to do. And then Stevie came along, saw that, and he had dalliances with other kinds of bands as well. But once he got into the blues thing, well, that's kind of the path he went down too.
And as you said, they were committed because neither one of them ever held a day job. And when they both started playing when they were professional, they were 14 and 15. And once they did that, they didn't go back to school, and they never took a part-time job at 7-Eleven or in the lumber yard. They just played music, and if they had to sleep on a pool table, they would do that.
Yeah. I mean, it was music or bust.
Yes,
for them, and probably back then, before things really turned, there was probably a little bust in there from time to time. But the guys were just so talented, so committed, so into it that, like I say, when you watched them, you knew that there was something going on here that the rest of us didn't have. And that's just the way it rolled out with them from then on.
Mm-hmm. And we're on a podcast now, so we're obviously going digitally over the internet. They did all this when they could not do a Facebook page and they couldn't post on Instagram. They had to put out like handbills. And you had to get out of your house and drive down to the club they were playing in to hear that music. You couldn't hear the music any other way.
Yeah. And, you know, the back then, if your band was playing somewhere, what you did was you went around telling everybody you knew. That was how you got it out instead of posting it on Facebook or Twitter or whatever now. You know, you just told everybody you knew that, hey, we're playing at such and such Friday night, 7:30 or whatever it was. And that's kind of the way things worked back then. I'm sure it worked that way for them too.
Yep, it was true word of mouth.
It was true word of mouth. What did you think of Jimmy the first time you saw him?
I thought that he was the most incredible guitar player I'd ever seen. And I remember this vividly because Stoney Burns, I was working at Buddy Magazine then, and Stoney said to me, says, let's go to the Texas Chili Parlor. The Thunderbirds playing there tonight. And I'd never heard of them. And this is the original Texas Chili Parlor. And Frank X. Talbert and his son, Frank Jr., were working the kitchen that night. It was down on Main Street, downtown, and just had a big old plate glass window in front of it. There wasn't even a stage, just a corner the band was set up in. And the Thunderbirds are playing, and when they started playing, I kept looking for another guitar player because I was hearing rhythm and lead being played.
Yeah.
But that was Jimmy playing both of them at the same time. And you got to remember, this is back in like 1977 or 76. And being a Buddy, and you were at the zoo, you're the same way. We saw every show that came to town, every concert that came here. We got to go to the show, you know, because the record companies would, pay our way.
Yeah, they wanted you there.
Yes, because you're going to help them sell records.
Right.
But I'd seen like Robin Trower, Eric Clapton, all these Mick Ronson, all these great guitar players, and I saw Jimmy, and I was like, oh my God, he's as good or better than them because he played every lick they could play, but he played it behind his head, behind his back, and he didn't use any effects. He just plugged straight into a Fender amp. Everybody else had all these pedals and things to give him sustain. He and Stevie both got them out of their hands, but I saw Jimmy play that night, and I was blown away. Like I said, I thought I'd seen Elvis,
Yeah.
And walking back to the car with Stoney that night, I said, I have never seen anyone play guitar that way. And Stoney said, yeah, but he's got a younger brother who's probably better than he is.
Yeah, he used to go around telling everybody that too.
Yeah.
I mean, he was really, really good and everything like that, but you said anything to him about it, he said, well, you see my little brother. And Stevie came along, and he was right. He was not wrong about that at all. The other thing about them is they were both just incredible showmen,
Yep.
I mean, like you go see bands today, and there's probably a guy up there playing guitar, and he's really, really good and all that, but he's not doing anything to really engage the audience or be showy or anything like that. The Vaughan brothers were.
Yep.
And I think a lot of that came from when Jimmy used to go down into certain areas where most white boys could not or would not go.
Yep.
And see some of the guys down there, some of the guys like Freddie King.
And T-Bone Walker. And, some other guys like that. And like I say, I'm not certain of this, but I think that's pretty much where he got it from. Oh, yeah. He says that in our film, our documentary, Jimmy Stevie Ray Vaughan, Brothers in Blues. He talks about going down on the Trinity River bottoms to go to see, we went to a club called Guthrie's, and he went to see T-Bone Walker play there. And he said that just blew him. And yeah, he and one other guy, they were the only white guys in the club, but he just said that just blew him away. And he said to see that music there in that place where it came from, he said that had a big, powerful effect on me. And, and as you said, they were showmen because they didn't just play the guitar. They put it behind their head, behind their back. They moved it all around. They played guitar in ways you didn't think were possible.
Yeah.
Again, it was like the guitar was an extension of their body,
They gave you something to look at, which, like I say, most guys didn't do back then.
No.
Most bands stood up there and played. It's almost like they were kind of shy. If you're playing rock and roll music, the last thing you want to be is shy.
Right.
But it was just an incredible time to be around them. And then later on, through a whole nother set of circumstance, I got to know Stevie a little bit. And I mean, to this day, I don't know Jimmy hardly at all. You know, he may or may not know who I am, but I definitely know who he is.
Right.
But Stevie I got to know him a little bit better.
Yeah.
But that was a great documentary you did. What did you like best about that film?
I think what I liked best about it was getting ready to interview on camera the people who were in the room when it happened. Like, I'm not necessarily telling everybody a lot of new stuff. We have some new stuff. We have quite a bit of new stuff there. I'll correct myself on that. But if you read any of the biographies about Stevie or there's millions of documentaries about him on YouTube. They don't have Eric Clapton on camera looking you in the face saying, here's what I saw the night Stevie died. They don't have Jackson Browne saying, I first met Stevie at the Montreux Film Festival. I said, hey, if you need to record some music, come out to my studio. And Thanksgiving morning, or the day before Thanksgiving, he gets a phone call, says, we're here. And Jackson Browne talks about that on camera again. You can read about this. And then also Nile Rodgers, who first recorded Stevie professionally for David Bowie's Let's Dance. And he talks about he went in the studio and Bowie told him, I got this guitar player. And he said he'd never even met Stevie. And he talks about going to the studio and meeting him for the first time and then working on the Family Style album. He was there in the room when this happened again. And then lastly, Billy Gibbons, who I didn't realize this we started doing the film. He and Jimmy were contemporaries, and they were both in high school. They were 14 and 15. They played the same rock clubs around Texas, and they both talked about a gig they played at a club down in Houston called the Catacombs, and they were 14 and 15, and they had a guitar face-off down there and like that. And then Gibbons later wrote a song about the Thunderbirds playing at the Rome Inn in Austin. It's called Low Down in the Streets. Mm-hmm. And it's about the Thunderbirds who used to play a regular Monday night gig there, and that song is about them. And I got him to tell us in those words what he saw at the Rome Inn and why he wanted to do a song about it. So to me, that's the most satisfying part of the film, is that we got people who were there telling us what they were in the room and they tell us what they saw and what happened. And we had a few new reveals here, some things we pulled out that I learned that I'd never read in any of the biographies of them at all before. So I learned some new stuff too, and I hope the audience will too if they watch it.
Yeah, I mean, if you were a fan of the Vaughn brothers or a fan of Stevie Ray or Jimmy separate together, whatever, and you haven't seen the film yet, you do need to do that. You know, you mentioned guys that Stevie were friend or that became taken with Stevie over the years, like Eric Clapton, like Jackson Browne, like Nile Rodgers. Those are three very, very disparate guys, you know? I mean, there's not a whole lot of common ground there between the three of them. I mean, they all do their own thing. They're all great, but as far as one of them being like the other, not really.
Well, but they all love music, and and they all had a connection to that music. They all recognize talent too. Jackson Browne talks about that, but they like music, and really both Vaughan brothers have a much wider taste of music than you would realize. When I was working on the film with Jimmy, I was interviewing him, and he had all these songs he'd pick up and show me on YouTube. He listens to a lot of different stuff, and Stevie did too. But those three guys, as you said, they're all different, but they knew talent, they knew music, and they knew these guys have got it, and we all like good music, you know. And
all three of those guys were at Stevie's funeral.
Yes.
Oddly enough. But that was a really, really great film. Now let's talk about When Texas Rocked a little bit.
When Dallas Rocked.
Sorry.
We know Texas Rocked, but I want to brag on Dallas.
Yeah. Now, what was the idea behind that?
Well, Stoney Burns died suddenly while I was over visiting my daughter in France, and then Bug Henderson died. And I'd always wanted to do something to catalog the music scene here in Dallas in the 70s. Because you, like me, we were both there. And at that time, and people today don't understand this, but in the 70s, Dallas was a bigger music town than Austin was. And I can prove it because all the major record labels had offices here and distribution here. They didn't have that in Austin. The most dominant radio stations were out of Dallas, KZEW, where you were, and then Q102. Austin had popular stations, but you could not pick their signal up very far out of Austin. And then we had the blues. We had Freddie King here and T-Bone Walker, who were both from Dallas. And Freddie King lived in Dallas and used used to play clubs around here all the time when he wasn't, on the road. And so we had just a huge scene happening here in the 70s that I was part of. And I really wanted to catalog that or get it down somehow, because I majored in history at Baylor University. I don't know if you know that, but I've actually got a degree in history, and we always used to say it's not history till it's written down, and newspapers are the first draft of history. So working at Buddy, I got to see a lot of stuff, and I just said, I want to get this somehow cataloged, because the internet generation, they don't know about this. They weren't even born when all this happened, and now it's gone. It's not that way anymore. But I somehow wanted to codify and get it out there just to tell that story. And I'm glad I did, because I've always gotten a great response on it, from us old baby boomers. Thank you for remembering that. And then from youngsters saying, I had no idea.
Yeah. Dallas doesn't really have that kind of reputation like Austin does, or like Memphis does, or like some other places might. But it did have a scene here.
It did.
It did.
And all the national acts that came here, they didn't just come here to perform. They hung out. I mean, like went to Mother Blues, all the top acts, or the Binary Star, other clubs. They would just get on stage and jam, like that. And so we did have a real scene going on here, but. Like I say, it just kind of slipped away, because once there were no more records, no more record stores, no more powerful radio stations, it's all podcasts. Not that that's a bad thing. and then
go podcast, go.
Yeah, go podcast. I say that, yes. Go, long live the podcast. And then again, Freddie King, who I don't know if people understand how big an influence he had on the whole rock and roll scene. Eric Clapton. We got him in my film talking about that he learned how to play guitar by listening to Freddie King records. And then Eddie Van Halen says he learned how to play guitar by listening to Eric Clapton records. So Freddie King is the grandfather of Eddie Van Halen by that line of reasoning.
Yeah. If that thread indeed holds true, then that's the conclusion you come up with.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, there were a lot of places. It was a legitimate scene. And I don't think we appreciated it fully at the time. You never do.
No, I took it for granted, and I took it for granted tremendously, because I would always, if I missed something, I say, that's okay. We can see it next week. Yeah. And one day there's no next week.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a time that goes overlooked and unappreciated by way, way too many people. But there it is, all for you in When Dallas Rocked.
You can watch it on YouTube.
Yep. And if you've not seen it yet, by all means, you should.
It's great. I watched it. I believe it debuted on KRA back in the day.
Yes.
Yeah, it did. It did.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
It did. And I'm going to give it a look as soon as I can here, because I haven't seen it in a while.
That's too long.
It is too long. So what were the other films you mentioned that you've done?
The other one was called Border Bandits, and it was a story about happened in 1915. My grandfather was a cowboy working down on a big ranch in South Texas, and that was during the Mexican Revolution. And a group of Texas Rangers came and killed two Mexican. They were American citizens, but they were Mexicans, had a ranch on this side of the river. They came and executed them because there had been a bandit raid on the McAllen Ranch. They were trying to find who did it. These guys didn't do it, but they figured, let's just kill them anyway. And my grandfather buried the bodies 3 days later. He said that the Rangers left the bodies by the side of the road. And so he went on, he told me the story, and I was always fascinated by that, because I would say, well, the Lone Ranger would never do that, and Texas Rangers are always exemplified as being so upstanding.
Yeah,
there's never been a movie made about bad Texas Rangers, whereas on cops we've had Serpico and Copland and Training Day showing bad cops,
right?
But they've never done anything short of bad Texas Ranger, and so my grandfather's story really kind of ate at me, because I was saying, well, this does not correlate to what I've been taught. But I was blessed that he named names and dates and places, and I was able to go back and find actual documents in the courthouses down in South Texas and the newspapers, and they all corroborated everything he said. And so I said, I just want to tell this story, and get it out there, and I did. And it's Border Bandits, and it is also on YouTube.
How difficult was that to make? I mean, did you have a lot of trouble getting people to that might know something to talk about it or anything?
Well, unfortunately, the people that knew something were dead by now, except the descendants of some of the people that were. We tracked down the descendants of the people who were murdered by the Rangers and talked to them. One of them was an elderly gentleman who was like 2 years old when his dad was killed, and he remembered it vividly. And then the grandson of the other man who was killed. And we talked to them, and then we actually got the director of public relations for the Texas Rangers, Mike Cox, to talk to us on camera because I had some copies of Rangers reports, and I said, "Is that correct?" And he said, "Yes, that's correct." And so it wasn't hard to get people to talk to us about it because like I said, most people that were around when that happened, they're now deceased.
Yeah. All right, this is Kirby Warnock with us today. And we'll have a little bit more with Kirby coming up, but right now it is time for one thing and one thing only, and that is the dreaded and feared mid-show read. All right, let us spend a couple seconds talking to people who may be walking around and not feeling very well. Maybe you are in pain and you don't know what it is. You just know that when you're doing normal things like walking or you got to pick something up or something like that, you hurt. That is no fun. And if this is you, then we need to tell you about the CBD House of Healing. Because at the CBD House of Healing, they got stuff that can help you out. Now, you may be thinking, okay, all right, CBD House of Healing. You're going to send me to a head shop to help me get my knees fixed or something like that? No, that's not what this is about at all. That is not what this is about. Over there, they're all about the medicinal side of CBD. Their owner is a registered nurse, and if you go in there and tell her what's wrong and talk to her about it, chances are she's going to have something that will help you feel better. Now, you may be saying, okay, how do you know this? Well, I know it because I was that guy not too terribly long ago. I was walking around this world in pain. I hurt, and I didn't know why. And I went in there to the CBD House of Healing. I talked to her. She gave me stuff, and the stuff made it feel better. I don't know if it necessarily made it go away. I probably got something fairly substantial going on, still today, but I do know that it did make it feel better. And the CBD House of Healing helped me. And if you fall under this heading, it can help you. And you need to go by there and check it out for yourself and just see. I mean, it can't hurt, can it? The CBD House of Healing is located at Plano Road and Northwest Highway in the burgeoning northeast quadrant of that intersection. We were by there the other day for a little Christmas get-together that they had, and they're all set up and they are ready to help you out. Go by there and tell them you heard about it from us here on Your Dark Companion. The CBD House of Healing is there for you. Should I do this too?
Polyphonic spree? Heck yeah.
Okay. All right. Let us tell you about the Polyphonic Spree 22nd Annual Holiday Extravaganza. This is coming up Saturday, December 20th at the Majestic Theater here in Dallas. It is a Dallas holiday tradition since 2003. Maybe you saw our podcast with Tim DeLauder of the Polyphonic Spree, which we did really that was the last one we did.
Week,
a few days last week.
He was the last person in that chair, Kirby.
That's right.
All right.
And doors are going to open at 6. They're going to have a variety act at 7. The spree goes on at 9. The fun begins the moment you enter the lobby, serenaded by the charming sounds of the Norman and Sharon Seaton accordion entertainers. Mingle with classic holiday characters like Frosty, Rudolph, and a team of jolly elves. The Nutcracker Soldier will wow you with their stilt walking skills, and Mrs. Mistletoe will be face painting for the kids. Don't forget to stop by for photos out front with Mr. and Mrs. Claus. As you can see, this is a full-blown Christmas extravaganza as only Tim and the Polyphonic Spree can put on.
I like that everything Tim does is pretty much a fever dream that he makes real. It's
He has
really
a way
impressive.
he has a way of doing that like nobody I've ever seen. It's just amazing. It is nonstop with a delightful variety act from Dallas's finest family entertainers at the conclusion of the event. Now, how would you top off a Christmas extravaganza like that? Why, with milk and cookies.
Oh.
How else? And they will be served at the conclusion of the event. That is Saturday, December 20th at the Majestic Theater in Dallas. The Polyphonic Spree 22nd Annual Holiday Extravaganza. You must go see it.
Yeah, and just bring a canned good as well as a new unwrapped toy to be donated, and you will serve some Dallas families in need through charity.
So there is that,
Yes,
too.
the reason for the season.
The reason for the season. All right, let us get back into our talk with Kirby Warnock of many, many different enterprises. What is life for you today like out in West Texas?
Well, it's a lot less traffic. That's the best thing. The minute I leave the ranch, I get on Interstate 10 and the speed limit's 80 miles an hour and there's not a car out there. So I've removed a lot of stress from my life. We miss good shopping. We just got a Walmart store, and that's about it. If they don't have it, we can't get it. In Odessa and Midland are the nearest big cities. That's 120 miles away. So, but I like the serenity and the peacefulness. I do miss some of the things Dallas has to offer. But the biggest thing is, again, I do not miss the traffic. I've noticed as I've gotten older, driving in traffic in Dallas is stressful.
It is.
It's only gotten worse, for the record.
Right.
Yeah.
I've noticed that. We've been gone for about 9 years. When I come back this time, I said, oh, my God. But whatever. It is what it is. But, I like Dallas. I've always liked this town. Always have.
Well, I mean, you're a Dallas guy.
Yeah.
I mean, you're one of those guys that everything in Dallas is part of you.
True that, yeah, and it's almost like telling somebody it's like wearing a good old comfortable leather jacket. It feels good to come back to Dallas and slip that coat on,
What's the weather like out there most of the time?
Very dry. First thing, we only get an average of 13 inches of rain a year. Y'all get that much in 3 days here, I think. I think this year we've only had 8 inches, and it's warmer than here because we're further south. We're only about 80 miles from Marfa and then 60 miles from Alpine. And so it's a lot drier and warmer. Sometimes the wind can blow. I'll say that. We have that out there. But it's pretty temperate climate, and I like it,
It's really, it's a drive that people should make. Just to see it. I've been down to Terlingua a couple times, and that part of the world, you think of it as being very barren and very dry, and there's nothing to see there, and maybe to a large degree, that's all pretty true. But as far as there being nothing to see there, that is not so.
Right. It's some of the most beautiful country in Texas, and believe it or not, we have mountains in Texas, and all those mountains are out there. There's parts of it you'll think you're in Colorado because you're up in the Pinon Pines and all like that. And to a lot of people who've never been there, that is the biggest revelation to them. They say, I had no idea that Texas could look like this.
Yeah, it's something that you don't know it's there until you go see it for yourself, and it's something that you never think would be there. Like you think you hear about that part of the world and you think there can't be anything more than desert out there, and there's some of that action too, but there's also a lot more to it, and if you've not been, you just need to go.
Yes, get up off the couch, do it.
Yeah, get in the car and go. If you only stay for a couple days, that's fine. Just you need to see it.
I agree.
To get the fullest picture of the state of Texas that you possibly can, you must do that.
I agreed.
Because the rest of Texas is, kind of like this. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that.
No.
It's just, kind of different. So was this something you'd been wanting to do for some time, to get out of here and go out there and live, or did you just get a wild burr up your saddle one day and say, screw it all, we're going to West Texas?
No, it's been a lifelong thing. My father was born and raised out there on the ranch, Fort Stockton, Texas, and my mother was from South Mississippi. So when they got married, they agreed they would live in Mississippi. But my dad was an only child, by the way, but they agreed that we would spend every Christmas and every summer out there near Fort Stockton. So the whole time growing up, it was a 2-day drive out there from Mississippi. The first day was from Mississippi to Dallas. My dad's best friend from Fort Stockton lived in Dallas. We'd always spend the night with them in Oak Cliff, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. And so from the time I was born until I left home, we made that drive there and then came back. And just I liked it because it was so different than South Mississippi. I mean, for one thing, in Mississippi, the trees are so thick you can only look up. There's you can't see a long way. And there was such different wildlife out there. And you talk about that country, it's teeming with wildlife. You don't see them in the daytime, but there's all kinds of animals out there. They come out at night mainly. And I just liked it because it's so different. And also, I was going there as a child in the 1950s, the golden age of TV westerns, Bonanza, Have Gun, Will Travel, Rawhide, sure. Maverick. Mm-hmm. And so I watched that on TV all the time, and I got to go out there to the ranch, and I didn't just pretend I was riding horses and shooting guns. I got to actually do it. And for a 10-year-old boy to saddle a horse with my brother and be turned loose with no adult supervision, that was just a dream. And I always enjoyed that country because of that. And so we just got an opportunity, Diane and I got an opportunity to move out there about 9 years ago. A lady came to us and offered us a ridiculous price for our house in Oak Cliff and said, can you be out here in a month? And we said, yes, ma'am. And so we just threw everything in a U-Haul and headed out there. And there's no perfect place to live, I'll say that, but I like living out there. Yes, I do. And I do enjoy coming back to visit Dallas. Yes.
Yeah. One of the guys that you cross paths with over the years is a fellow who at one time was a pretty notorious character. Mm-hmm. Here in our Fairburg, and I think you know where I'm going with this, but I want to see what you have to say about him, and I want you to tell me how you met him. We're speaking of Stoney Burns, who was the publisher, right?
Yes.
Of Buddy Magazine.
Yes.
And before that, Stoney was he was a little bit of a civic rabble-rouser.
Yes.
To a certain degree. How'd you link up with him?
Well, I'd seen a copy of Buddy Magazine when I was a student down at Baylor. I came up for a concert, and I saw one. I thought, oh, my God, this is great. This is like Rolling Stone, but it's just Texas music. And so when I moved to Dallas after I graduated, I got to go to a Jerry Jeff Walker concert and took a picture to him there. And I brought him into the office and said, would you like these pictures? And they bought them from me. Stoney wasn't there at the time. It was a guy named Bill Douglas. And so they called me and said, we have your check ready for those pictures. And I drove up there, and it was a whopping $7. and Stoney was there, and he said, yeah, that was a pretty good picture of Jerry Jeff. He says, do you know how to sell advertising? And I did, because I worked at a newspaper, a little daily newspaper in Salida, Colorado for 2 years. And I sold advertising for them. I said, yes, I do. He said, well, we've got an open if you want to come to work for us. So I picked him a $7 check. And next thing I know, I was working selling ads for Buddy Magazine. And then he fired the editor at that time, Bill Douglas, and said, do you want to be editor? And I said, sure. And so he would basically give you any title you wanted as long as you sold advertising. Yeah. You had to justify your existence. And so I did that. And by the time I met him, if you see this picture of him here, when he got arrested at Lee Park, he had already gone through his radical days. He had been arrested and beaten up so many times because he published a underground paper called Notes from the Underground.
Yes, Notes from the Underground.
And this was during the Vietnam War, and he was extremely critical of the Vietnam War, extremely critical of Dallas police. You can see they're beating him up there. And he was regularly beaten and just arrested, but they never got the charges to stick until they pulled him over one night and they searched his car and found less than 1/10 of an ounce of marijuana in a film can in his glove compartment, hardly enough to make a joint. and people may find this hard to believe, but back then, possession of any amount of marijuana in Texas was a felony. And he was sentenced to 10 years and 1 day in Huntsville prison for having less than 1/10 of an ounce of marijuana. And
it was no nonsense back then, man.
Oh, yeah. And the judge added the 1 day, 10 years and a day, because he'd be eligible for parole in 18 months. And if he served longer than 10 years, he would not be eligible for parole for at least 3 or 4 years. And the judge did that just to gig him a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because they were trying to get him for a long time because he was so critical of the establishment, I guess in an era where you couldn't vent that anywhere except in the print medium.
He was a rabble rouser.
Yes.
That's hard to say.
Yes, he was. He was a rabble rouser and arrested and beaten numerous times. I would have given up but the first time they beat me up. But the guy was, I don't think anybody today can even comprehend what he was like, because he was very colorful and over the top. And this is in an era before reality television, when they rewarded you for doing stupid stuff. But he just did some pretty crazy stuff. And it was just hard. It's kind of hard to describe. That's all I can say. He could at one time be the most generous person in the world and then the stingiest person. And he could be nice and sweet and just lose his temper at any moment. And I guess one of the best ways to describe all the contradictions between him was he was born Jewish and had a mezuzah in the door of his house, but yet he ate pork ribs. so he was that far into the spectrum. And he also was a firm believer when he was at Notes in the Underground and was getting arrested, that the police should not be prosecuting or arresting people for what he called victimless crimes. And that included, drug use, and also, prostitution or any kind of sex work. He said that these are consensual people agreeing on an exchange, and why do you care? Because it's just between them. And he spent a lot of time harping on that in Notes from the Underground, and that did not go over well. If you haven't noticed, Dallas is a fairly conservative town, and
really,
yes. And that did not fly very well in 1967 or 68 and like that. And so that was why he was always running afoul of the police, it seemed like,
He was quite a guy for sure. And I mean, Buddy Magazine, it was really crazy because I was in the local music scene back then. And among that crowd of players that I hung out with, it was not terribly well regarded at all. And I never really understood why. I mean, here you had something that is chronicling the scene here.
Mm-hmm.
How can you not support that? How can you not at least think, you may not like it, but you have to, at least acknowledge that.
At least there's something.
Yeah, at least there's something. And most of the guys I was hanging out with just wouldn't do that. But I was always a huge, a little bit in the closet, but a huge Buddy fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought you guys did great work there, man.
Well, we did, looking back on it at the time. When you're 24 years old and doing this, you don't really think that much about it. It's just, that's just what I do. But to your point, I think I've got an answer for you. You said he was not well regarded by some of the people at the zoo and all like that, because he would hit on any woman he saw, even as your girlfriend or your wife. And I think he hit on a few KZEW jockeys' girlfriends, like that. And just, he had no shame about hitting on women, because he figured they'll just slap me if they don't want me to be around them. But he would hit on any woman, and that was one of his. That was one of the things, and he had a lot of girls. He had a lot of girls around him.
Yeah. But he brought some pictures in here today. That's Eric Clapton up there, right?
That is Eric Clapton in the Anatole Hotel when he was touring. This is back in 1978, I believe. And Freddie King came out on stage with him at that show, and they jammed together.
Yeah, I was there that night.
Yeah, but he was at the Anatole, and I was able to get there and get an interview with him and bought him some Buddy magazines. And, the thing about back then about Buddy was that when big stars came here and we took their picture, interviewed them, they didn't have to worry about it being on the internet the next day. I mean, only if you picked up a physical copy of Buddy magazine and looked at it would you know that Eric Clapton was there. So they were a little bit more looser, relaxed about us to shooting their picture or interviewing them because they knew it wasn't going to go anywhere past Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
And they were back in L.A. and New York and didn't have to worry about it, like that. But I met him up there and then did an interview with him, and that was when he told me that he learned how to play guitar by listening to Freddie King. He said Freddie King was the first guy I ever heard bend a note and put a vibrato on it. He said Dwayne Eddy had vibrato, but we all knew that was tremolo. He wasn't doing that with his hands. But he just talked openly about his admiration for Freddie. Anyway, that was I shot that picture up there of him and just in a relaxed setting, and it's I'm kind of proud of it.
That's what you should be. That's cool.
Yeah.
Got any others up there? Okay,
Yeah.
Who's this?
This is
Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah, at Mother Blues. Now, the great Ron McCowan, who was a photographer, buddy, shot this. That was upstairs at Mother Blues, and Buffett had done the show, and they were paying him. They paid him in cash, and he's there having a hit on a doobie and all like that. And so, and so Ron got that picture, and of course Jimmy Buffett didn't care because he thought no one will ever see this, and here we are, 60 years later. But that was all part of the allure of when you talk about a scene in Dallas. The stars came here and did a show, then they hung out. Now they go in their tour bus and leave.
Right.
So was that picture actually in Buddy magazine?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's awesome.
We Stoney's motto was we print whatever we want. We don't care.
I respect the hell out of that.
Yeah. And this is another one taken by Ron McCowan. This is Peter Frampton before he recorded Frampton Comes Alive, the largest selling double live album in history, I might add. And he recorded those early songs on Frampton Comes Alive. He recorded at KZW January Sound.
Yes.
For the Zoo tapes. They would bring in touring artists and have them go in there and record. And they got Frampton recording that. And this is at Dallas Memorial Auditorium. And this is well before he did Frampton Comes Alive. But the opening act that night was I'm drawing a blank on his name. Flip Flop Fly, Don't Care If I Die. James Cotton, thank you. James Cotton was the opening act for Peter Frampton. Freddie King was friends with James Cotton and came by to see the show, and they met up backstage. And there's Ben Ferguson of Buddy magazine, the writer there, and Ron McCowan shot that photo. And that's just two giants of the guitar. But it's different backgrounds you could come from. The guy from England, a little Brit, and then the big black bluesman right there. And they're meeting up, shaking hands out of respect here in Dallas, Texas. Again, that's not Austin. That's here. But that's just another great photo that captures a moment. And that is Joan Jett back. You'll remember this, Mike. Whenever a big act came to town, they did an in-store appearance. They would go down to Peaches Records and Tapes or Soundware and sign records. I mean, the big stars, not just the rinky-dink ones. And this is Joan Jett when the Runaways were down at Peaches signing records for an in-store appearance. And we got that. I got that shot of her close up. And this is before they... I don't know if they got famous till later when she had Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. The Runaways were never really a big band, I don't think. Y'all didn't even play them on the Zoo, I don't think. No, they weren't very good musicians. They weren't very good, but they were girls and looked good.
That was different.
Yeah. But anyway, I got that picture of her down at Peaches Records and Tape. She used to be at Cole and Fitzhugh. It's gone, too. There are no more large record stores anymore. And Mike remembers that the Zoo would do remote broadcasts from the stores and like that, too.
Yeah. The great thing about those stores, Sound Warehouse, Peaches, was, man, what a great time kill it was.
Oh, yes.
If you needed to kill some time for whatever reason, there was nothing better than a swim through one of those places.
Oh, yeah. And back when you actually had to own a physical item to have music.
Yeah.
You couldn't just pull it up on your phone. Like that.
Got another one there?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, this one I really like. I took that picture too. That's Stevie Ray Vaughan, well before he hit it big, playing a free Buddy concert at Lee Park. We called it the Freddie King Memorial Concert, and we threw it free there. He was playing a gig at a place called Al's Bamboo. It was a club right off of Oak Lawn, and Angus Wynn booked it. But anyway, he was coming to town, playing 3 nights there, and we asked him, before y'all drive back, they played Thursday, Friday, Saturday at Al's Bamboo. And we asked him, before you drive back to Austin, could y'all come play a free show here at Lee Park? And he said, sure. I mean, he and Jimmy were both extremely cooperative with us. I cannot say enough good things about them for that. But he came there and he played there, and it was, like you say, it wasn't a huge crowd, but then, just a few years later, we hear him playing on David Bowie's Let's Dance, the largest selling David Bowie album of all time, I might add. Mm-hmm. And that's before he hit it big and like that. But when he played that day, again, we were just gobsmacked because he just did stuff with the guitar that you'd never seen done before. And I thought he was going to break it, actually, because he puts it on the amp and he's stomping on the neck and like that. And that was the first time I ever seen that guitar.
He was not easy on a guitar.
Oh, no, he beat it to death. And that was the first time I saw the guitar, what he calls his number one. He had just recently acquired it, and he showed us, he said, hey, look at this new guitar I got. And he opened the case, and it's so beat up Strat. Looks like hell. We said, well, yeah, that's kind of neat. We kind of rolled our eyes. But little did we realize at the time that was going to be the guitar that took him on to greatness and all that. But again, I want to say, that day, even though there's a small crowd, and I made that picture, I could tell that dude was going to go do something. They just had that aura about them.
And there was a time, kids, where you would have live music pop up for free in Lee Park Saturdays, usually on Sunday afternoons.
Yep, Sunday
afternoons. When it
afternoons.
happened. And just anybody who wanted to go there could. And if a band wanted to play, okay, go set up.
Yeah.
Go set up and play. Better times back then.
It was a better world.
This is Jimmy, right?
Yes, Jimmy. That's when we had the premiere of our Vaughan Brothers documentary, Jimmy and Stevie Ray Vaughan, Brothers in Blues. That's Gary Clark Jr. That's at the Paramount Theater down in Austin. And we sold the place out and had a lot of celebrities come out for it and just had a big old time. It was, there's nothing not to like about it. You make a movie and everybody comes to see it and they say they like it. That's the best feeling in the world.
What was your involvement in that?
I produced it and directed it.
Okay.
Pretty involved.
Yeah. Pretty bold for sure.
Yep. Well, I couldn't wait for funding, so I went ahead without it.
All right, Jimmy. All right, last one.
This one, again, I'm going, and let me just say right now, I love Austin, Texas. My daughter graduated from UT Austin. I love that town. But Willie Nelson's breakout album, The Red-Headed Stranger, with Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain and all those hits that made him a big star, that's him recording it at Autumn Sound in Garland, Texas, with Phil York. So Willie Nelson, although he's identified with Austin, his big breakout record happened here in the Metroplex, and that's him at the mixing board right there. And anyway, just going back again, when Dallas rocked, there was a scene going on here. There were recordings. Sorry, I get excited about it. Yeah.
Now, have we touched on all of your films?
The only one you haven't touched on was my first one. It was called Return to Giant, and it's about the making of the movie Giant out of Marfa, Texas in 1955. And I wish people could watch it easily, but they can't. I actually sold that film to Warner Brothers. It's my first film I'd ever done. I sold it to a major studio. I thought, well, this is easy. But they bought it from me, and they bought it from me in 1996. And then they came out with a technology called DVDs. Before then, everything was on a VHS tape, to all you youngsters out there. And they bought it from me and packaged it on the DVD of Giant as an extra feature. And we showed it on PBS nationally before they bought it. But now it's only available on the DVD. I've been trying very hard to get them to put on a streaming service, but the studio has been sold 4 times and it's about to be sold again. So the people that cut that deal with me, they left several generations. They got laid off or let go, consolidation, downsizing, whatever you call. And so that film is now only available on the DVD of Giant as a bonus feature, Return to Giant, and it's narrated by Don Henley, another guy that had a band in the Metroplex. He did the narration for us that we recorded over at Summit Burnett Sound over in the Twin Hill studio.
I think Don Henley had a band after that too, didn't he?
He had a band, Felicity. And then I think they became Shiloh. But he had some bands here in the Metroplex.
But there's one that came after that I think did a little something, or I could be wrong about that.
I don't remember all of it. There's the hard drive is full.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What was Giant about?
Well, it's.
the main thing that I know about that is the The song.
Right. Well, it was James Dean's last movie. It would be etched in people's memory for that. He only made 3 films. But also, that was unusual for Hollywood to come and shoot a movie on location. You know, this was set in Texas, and they actually went out to Marfa and filmed it. And Warner Brothers put a ton of money into it. And they took over the town for like 2 months and shot the film on location. Back then, they had a lot of movies that were set in Texas, like The Searchers, but they were filmed in Monument Valley.
Yeah.
That was one of the first films actually set in Texas and filmed here. And James Dean was there, hung out with everybody, Rock Hudson, Liz Taylor. And I got fascinated by that film because when I was a boy, 5 years old, my father drove us out to the giant set outside of Marfa in the old Riata, the house that Rock and Liz live in. The facade was still standing. They, after they filmed the movie, they just drove off and left it. And he took me out there, and I was just totally fascinated by that as a 5-year-old kid because it was a 3-story house. It didn't have a back to it, And it was, and so I was just pretty taken with it. I didn't get to see the movie until I was in college because back then there were no VHS tapes or no streaming, and it came to a theater. And if you didn't see it in a theater and it was gone, it was gone. And I finally saw it on TV in college, and when they showed the Riata, I thought, oh my God, I've been there. So I became kind of obsessed with it and tracked down a lot of the locals that worked on the set and got their stories and videoed them and everything and put this story together about that. And it's Return to Giant on the DVD of Giant.
To this day, I've never seen that film.
We watched my doc, and you'll have done it well. You want to sit through the movie. It's a 3-hour movie. But if you can watch my documentary, it's only 58 minutes. It will tell you everything you need to know, if I could be so bold.
You can. And here you can be as bold as you want. Man, I really appreciate you coming in here and doing this.
Well, I appreciate.
Are you up to anything else we need to know about here?
The only thing we're still trying to promote our Vaughn Brothers movie. We don't have it internationally yet. We're going to have a screening in one theater in Sydney, Australia on December 18th. But we're trying to get Australia. Yes, yeah, that's the Vaughn Brothers film right there. We're trying to get Australian rights. It's available as streaming on just about every service except Netflix, and you can see it on YouTube with ads, or Tubi with ads. But we're trying to get in more international countries right now. But it's just getting music rights clearances is just the hardest thing I've ever done. I made that film. We shot it and edited and had it ready to go like in about 6 months. Then I spent 2 years getting music clearances because every song you want to use, there's 2 sets of clearances you got to get: sync rights and publishing rights.
Yeah.
And sometimes like on one song in that movie, "Life by the Drop," that Stevie Ray sings at the end of it.
Yeah.
We had to get the sync right. We had to get the music recording rights from Sony. And then it had 2 publishers, Barbara Logan and Doyle Bramall wrote it, and they were split publishing rights, and they were represented by 2 different publishing houses. So just to get one song, we had to go through 3 rounds of negotiations just to get permission to use it. And it didn't matter that it was Stevie's song. The Vaughn estate has licensed it to Sony, and so they didn't give it away, but Sony can exploit it as they wish, as long as they pay them royalties. So it's a hard road to hoe. I didn't mean to get off on that too much. I'm sorry. We'll be in Sydney, Australia, December 18th at the Orpheum Theater. Hope to have it internationally everywhere. Right now, go Google it, search it. You'll find Jimmy Stevie Ray Vaughan, Brothers and Blues. Stream it and watch it. Mike's giving you a good plug for it. I'm going to tell you it's great because I made it, but I hope you'll all give it a watch. It will give you a real history lesson, too, about Texas music back in that era, and just a lot of the bands that were playing then.
You'll like it. You're a grinder, man. You are a grinder. Thank you for doing this, Kirby.
Man, thank you again, Mike. It's damn good to see you again. If I could shake your hand, buddy.
Good to see you, my brother.
Good to be seen, as I say.
Yes, it certainly is for guys like us.
You were correct there.
All right. That is your Dark Companion for today. Thank you, Shoopy. Thank you, Ashley. And thank you for being by the channel. And as always, got to tell you this, if you like what we're doing here, there's something we need from you. We'll keep doing this if you do this one little thing that we want you to do for us, and that is get us out there, man. Get us out there on your social media.
Yeah, damn it.
Like us, share us, get us out there.
Go viral.
Yeah,
There
go
you go.
viral. Let us go viral. I've always wanted to go viral. Maybe someday I'll get to, but probably not. All right. That's it for today. Thank you all for watching. Bye.
I'm gonna go take my pants off.
Your Dark Companion is a Stolen Water Media presentation.